Hello everyone, Jeff here. This week I'm going to be working on some fairly technical stuff. I hope you'll bear with me a little bit here. We need to get Antilia in a state that is basically playable and get all of the things like the inventory system and the skill system that I demonstrated last week. We need to get those all put together, sorted out. Today I'm also going to be working on specifically a save game system. So not terribly interesting as far as new features, but that's just kind of where we are right now. And I thought while I was doing that, I would talk a little bit about kind of the realities of game development. You know, it's not always fun. Sometimes it is a bit of work, and what I do to stay motivated and just keep the project moving forward, even when it is a little bit like working a second job. So let's go ahead and get started on that. And I hope you'll stick around and stay tuned. So let's get going. So just real quick, I'm going to kind of pan by my whiteboard here, and you'll kind of see what I mean as far as sometimes things aren't terribly visually exciting. You can see, implement packet to query for status, implement a packet to list save games, load save game on simulation server. I've got a whole list of tasks that's going to take me all weekend here, but there's not going to be, by the end of it, there's not going to be anything really to show that's visual. So I'm not going to try and do all this in a video today. I'm just going to kind of keep moving forward. But I do want to use this weekend's video as an opportunity to get a little bit of work done. So I'm going to go ahead and get started here. So just a quick first order of business, and this is really minor and petty, but for some reason the background is dark and I didn't tell it to change the color of the background. So I'm going to sort that out real quick because I don't like not knowing why things like this happen. So I'm going to try and figure out what did I do. So let's sort that out real quick. And one thing I find really helps in these kind of scenarios is just make it ridiculous. Like I'm going to illuminate the scene entirely with red. And the reason I'm doing that is I just want to verify, sanity check that this code is it's the code that's causing the problem. So while that's building, I wanted to go ahead and talk a little bit about motivation, especially on days like this where I have a lot to do that's not fun. It's sitting down and, it's like you work all week on your day job and then on the weekend you work more. And that's a bit rough. It can be rough, especially when it's just not fun. Sometimes when the game is really fun to work on, it's rewarding, right? Like you're making the game, but then you're playing a little bit and you're like, oh man, it'd be really cool to have, this feature or that. So then you go and you add it, and it might take you half an hour to make it, but it's so rewarding to then go back in the game and see what you've done. And days like this can be particularly difficult because by the time I'm done here today, there isn't going to be anything to look at and feel like, wow, good job, I got something good done today. It's at best, at the end of the day, it's still incomplete. There's still not enough there to actually even try it or see what's going on. Real quick, I need to do some debugging here. I'm going to put a breakpoint in. Let's see if we hit that breakpoint. So some of the things I try to do when it comes to getting motivated, and it's kind of in my opinion, it's a little bit of a game you play for yourself, because if you only have one strategy, eventually that strategy will quit working. So you kind of have to have multiple strategies, I find. One is having clear task lists like my whiteboard. Sometimes the reason it's difficult for me to get started on a project will be because I don't have a great understanding of what needs to be done next. Sometimes just having what I like to do is kind of like create 5 to 10 minute task lists. And if I know what I need to be doing in the next 5 minutes, then I can at least do something. If I don't even know where to begin, then nothing will get done. So one of the first things I do when I need to get motivated and get something done is to make a 5-minute task list, kind of like the whiteboard behind me. Just break things down into tasks that you can just sit down and always cross one of them off. And that helps with a lot of the other strategies I use, like always cross off one thing every day. That's another strategy I use to just, I don't know if that's really a motivation thing, but it's a keep progress kind of thing. If you always cross one of your tasks off every day, even though you might be kind of in the weeds or stuck on something that's not fun to work on, eventually you get through it that way. And that's kind of the most important thing, is to just make progress. Some days it's just not going to be fun to work on, even if it is kind of like Antilia's for me, it's like a project you're really passionate about. It still can be difficult some days to work on it. And it's the same with writing. I've had that problem with writing where you really want to write this story, but you just don't know what to do next. And just having like a whiteboard or a scratch pad or a journal or something where you can write down what needs to be done next. What are you, what do you have to do next to move forward? That's one of my strategies, along with things like get a task done every day. I don't always do that, but when I'm really stuck, I'll try and do that. Just try and cross off, even if it's a 5-minute task. That way, by the end of the week, you've crossed off, 5-7 things, right? Well, look here. This is a real interesting bug. I don't know how this bug has, how did this exist for so long? We do on frame start, surfaces on frame start, on frame start, on frame, on frame. Look at this one, on frame end. This should have been on frame end. So it's actually, in theory, it might actually be rendering portions of the scene twice. Now this is a real strange, I don't know if this has anything to do with what's happening here, the issue I'm trying to sort out. I don't know if this is really the cause. I just noticed that it could potentially be rendering the entire scene twice, and that would really kill frame rates. I don't think that bug's been in the engine for long because I've changed that code recently. That definitely wasn't in the MMO or anything. Okay, I believe I've sorted this out. I think I found it. So we're going to turn these lines of code back on and delete these ones that set the color to red, and we're going to see what we got. Okay, looks like our background's fixed. Now we can move on to the real task at hand, which was supposed to be this stuff here, connecting to the simulation server and starting a new game. So I really want to get this done in today's video, and that brings up kind of my second motivational technique, which are these videos. I've talked about this before. They create positive time pressure, basically. You have to get something done, and I do wish I was doing them every week. I have considered going to every other week just because some weeks like this, I really just got to get this stuff done. And it can be a distraction to have to set up the cameras, the lighting. Some days you don't feel like getting in front of a camera. You have to, think about in your head how you can do the intro, do all that stuff. So it's kind of good to make the videos because it forces me to get something done. But if every video becomes like this one where I'm just working on just like this really tedious, boring stuff, I don't know how well the community will react to that if this becomes a bit dry for a month. So there's kind of a bit of a balance going on. I'm not quite sure if it's better for me to focus on Antilia and get things done or make the video, So YouTube is one of the things I do use as a motivational tool, but it doesn't work every time. Sometimes it does end up kind of getting a little bit in the way, and it can be real discouraging. I've had a couple weekends where I'll work on a video, I'll create a bunch of footage, and I'll go into editing, and it just doesn't pan out. Like it's not good. It's not something I feel proud of or that I want people to watch. It's like a lot of this me talking to camera and not enough getting things done. So I'll try and get back to work here. And I want to solve at least one more problem and wrap up today's video so I can continue working on this over the weekend. I don't know if there's going to be a whole lot more to show at this point though. So I'll try and sort out a few more things, and we'll just see if it's interesting. And you can maybe leave me your thoughts in the comments below. Is this interesting, me working on programming, or is this just kind of a distraction for me and kind of low quality content for the community maybe? When I click that create button, it needs to send a message to the simulation server, including the save game name and maybe an empty set of options. Okay, let's go do it. So we're going to create test 2. I'm going to pull this into the view here. Create test 2, Instances, ownership, scenes, instances, yep, has a bunch of stuff. Cool, so we're creating all the directories. Next step, I think, would be to enumerate the scenes. Go through all the scenes that are going to be in the new game. Copy all the template, all the instances over. I'm going to need to brainstorm this a little bit, so I think I'm going to wrap it up here. I sure hope this wasn't too boring. Let me know, is this kind of development interesting, or is this just a little too tedious watching me struggle to create directories in a folder? Not terribly exciting, but that's exactly what I'm going to be doing probably for the rest of this weekend, is just one by one creating, or just crossing off these tasks off my whiteboard, creating packets, responding to the packets. Once I get the create scene stuff working, I need the server to send a packet back to the client saying, okay, the scene's done, or the new game's been created, you're ready, and that'll make this window here disappear and probably take you, I think, straight to character creation, which will be the next step. So I'm going to wrap it up here. I hope you enjoyed. Again, let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section down below. I always appreciate your feedback, and I hope you'll tune in again next time. Thanks for joining us, and see you then. Bye. A special thanks goes to this month's Patreon supporters. If you'd like to support the project, you can do so by visiting www.patreon.com/Antilia.